In September of 2016, from the show floor of IFA in Berlin, we called the laptop a solved problem. That's not to say all laptops are good, of course, but the elements of a good laptop are now set in stone, and it doesn't appear new technology will change them anytime soon. We reached that conclusion after testing laptops like the Asus Zenbook UX330UA, as well as competitors like the Acer Swift 5 and Lenovo ThinkPad 13. These simple, affordable laptops aren't going to turn heads, but they're joy to use because they nail the fundamentals. Now Asus has introduced an updated follow-up to last year's Editor's Choice winning UX330UA called the Zenbook UX330UA. The new model iterates on its predecessor, adding a 7th generation Intel Core processor, a fingerprint sensor, and USB Type-C support, among other goodies. But goodies aren't what won awards for previous Zenbooks. They won because they brought excellent quality to a price everyone can afford, which, in this case, is $730. Is the UX330UA another affordable champion? The laptop equivalent of a t-shirt and jeans. The Asus Zenbook UX330UA allegedly isn't identical to the previous model. According to the specifications, the new version is 1/10 of an inch thinner at just a half-inch thick. It's also lighter, at 2.6 pounds. You'd never notice those differences without a specification sheet in front of you, and we doubt most people could tell the difference between the UX305UA and UX330UA even if the two were placed side by side. That's fine. On its own, the UX330UA holds up. The mostly metal chassis features the distinctive spun metal concentric circle finish that's common to all Zenbooks, and is meant to remind you of ripples in a pond. We've always liked the look, which is handsome, and adds unique flair that competitors from Acer, Dell, and Lenovo can't claim. Having said that, our review model silver finish wasn't a head-turner. In the past, Asus has sometimes offered subtle yet distinctive alternatives, like the dark blue-black of last year's Zenbook UX305CA. There's no such choice here. Silver is fine, but the lack of another option feels notable given last year's models came in several eye-catching shades. Though light, the UX330UA is a solid laptop. The chassis shows little sign of flex when handled roughly, and what can be found isn't enough to be concerning. Our only complaint is one we've had with past Zenbooks: the display bezels are wide, and the laptop is large for a 13-inch system as a result. It's not a major problem, but some competitors, like Dell's XPS 13, fit the same screen size into a smaller, more portable footprint. A little new, a little old. Asus takes a mixed approach to connectivity here, pairing two USB 3.0 Type-A ports with a single USB 3.1 Type-C. The Type-C doesn't support Thunderbolt 3, and can't be used to charge, so there's still a proprietary charging connector. Micro HDMI, a headphone jack, and a card reader round out the options. Though light, the UX330UA is a solid laptop. While it'd be nice to see Thunderbolt 3, it's hard to complain about either the number or type of connections here. The UX330UA offers some future-proofing, but will also work with your current peripherals. Wireless connectivity includes 802.11 AC Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 4.1. This is typical of a laptop in any price range. Solid keyboard, mediocre touchpad. The thin profile luckily doesn't compromise typing on the UX330UA, which offers a respectable 1.5mm of key travel in a nearly full-sized keyboard layout. This is where the large footprint pays off. There's plenty of space to rest your palms, and almost all the keys are properly sized. Only the arrow keys are tucked away, but how often are those used, really? Keyboard backlighting is standard, and serves up 3 levels of brightness. All 3 are dim enough to be usable in a dark environment without becoming a distraction. Not all keys are evenly backlit, which cheapens the look, and a fair amount of light leaks from the bottom of each key. Below the keys is a normally sized touchpad, about 3 inches tall by 4 inches wide. It offers full support of Windows 10 precision touchpad gestures, which work well. Yet the touchpad never felt great to our hands, largely because of its super slick surface. The lack of friction provided less tactile feedback than we'd like, making it easy to overshoot gestures. A fingerprint reader is integrated into the touchpad, which is impressive, given the price. The square it occupies unfortunately isn't responsive to touch input, so it knocks a small but awkward chunk out of the usable surface. The fingerprint reader hooks seamlessly into Windows Hello and generally accepts input well, though on a few occasions it did fail, forcing us to type in a password anyway. A display that's always beautiful. Like past Zenbooks, and many of its competitors, the UX330UA ships with a 1080p non-touch display. This is the most common resolution among 13-inch laptops but, of course, panel quality can vary widely from one model of laptop to the next. Luckily, this screen is a good one. Asus Zenbook UX330UA Review UX330 Display Color Accuracy Asus Zenbook UX330UA Review UX330 Display Contrast Asus Zenbook UX330UA Review UX330 Display Gamut. A few numbers immediately jump out from the rest. The screen displayed 98% of sRGB and 74% of Adobe RGB, figures that don't break records, but are better than expected from a laptop in this price range. The contrast ratio of 940:1 is also strong. While it's behind the Apple MacBook Pro 13 with Touch Bar, it beats the Acer Swift 7 and almost ties the Dell XPS 13, which had a contrast ratio of 960:1 when equipped with a 1080p touchscreen. Maximum brightness comes in at 315 lux, which is not the best we've seen, but it's more than adequate in a laptop with an anti-glare screen. The i5-7200U is plenty fast, cramming through everyday tasks effortlessly. We did find some flaws. The gamma curve came at 2.4, which indicates the screen renders content slightly darker than it should appear. Color error came in at 2.56. Because this is an error value, a lower score is better, and anything below 1 is generally unnoticeable to the human eye. The UX330UA score is not bad, but the Acer Swift 7, Dell XPS 13 with 1080p display, and HP Spectre X360 all score under 2. Testing aside, it's hard to fault the UX330UA's display in day-to-day use. The anti-glare coat keeps it usable in a variety of scenarios, including outdoors, where the reasonably bright backlight can compete with the power of the sun. Yet, somehow, the display also looks good playing a movie in a dark room. Its strong contrast ratio and reasonably accurate color combine to provide a clear, crisp image. It's not going to knock your socks off, but it's also hard to fault. Strong speakers, facing the wrong way. A pair of forward-facing speakers tuned by Harman Kardon are included along the bottom lip of this Zenbook. They provided robust sound, including a hint of bass that can be both heard and, if you're typing while listening to music, felt. The location dampened quality, though, as it's easy to obstruct the sound. External speakers or headphones are a good idea, but the built-in speakers are fine in a pinch. 7th generation Intel Core continue to impress. Inside the Zenbook UX330UA you will find the Core i5-7200U which, like the i5-6200U and i5-5200U before it, is destined to become the most common chip of the new generation. It shows up in laptops from $600 to over $1,500. This Asus is on the low end of that price spectrum, so its inclusion looks like good value right away. Asus Zenbook UX330UA Review UX330 Handbook Asus Zenbook UX330UA Review UX330 Geekbench 4 Single Core Score Asus Zenbook UX330UA Review UX330 Geekbench 4 Multi-Core Score. Next Previous. That initial assessment is backed up by our benchmark results. The chip performed almost identically to the Core i5-7200U found in more expensive laptops, like Dell's XPS 13, or HP Spectre X360. Better still, the i5-7200U is a decent upgrade over the old i5-6200U. That's not to say you can't find faster hardware. Our handbrake test, which involves transcoding a 4K trailer of Elysium from H.264 to H.265, needed over a half hour to complete. That's a bit long for a system with the Core i5-7200U, and it may indicate the Zenbook UX330UA does not handle thermal limitations as well as some peers. Still, this Asus isn't a mobile workstation. The i5-7200U is meant for typical day-to-day use, and there it provides excellent results, launching applications and cramming through edits of typical, HD resolution photos without breaking a sweat. This chip will still feel quick enough 5 years from today.